There is a shadow side to feminine embodiment, and no one's really talking about it, and honestly, a lot of women are suffering in silence because of it. They don't know it, though. And it's this. It's getting passive with your life, floating around in pleasure rituals and sex magic and somatic practices, but never actually executing on your desires. Now, I know that I don't know you, person behind the screen, but I think that I do. Because you wouldn't be listening to this episode if you didn't have big goals, big dreams. You're probably not here for the mundane 9 to 5. You probably don't like superficial relationships. They probably make you want to gag, like me. You're meant for more. But here's the truth. The only way that we create an abundant and epic life is with your masculine energy. And if you're living a whole life solely from the feminine, constantly surrendering and softening and melting, you're missing half of the equation. And by the way, if you're already thinking, shit, that's me, come join my free membership, The Empowered Feminine. That's where I give you tools to balance both energies so you're not stuck in the feminine floaty zone forever. There's a practice called the witnessing ritual that I love that really brings in masculine energy. The link is in my show notes. So I teach this work because I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and honestly, I haven't spoken much about the overly feminine side. But that's where I lived during my sabbatical. If you're new here, in 2024, I took a year-long sabbatical. I traveled all throughout Southeast Asia, and it was intentional. I gave myself a whole year to be in the space of doing nothing. I woke up whenever I wanted. I lived in and out of workshops. I didn't care about making money, obviously, because I wasn't working. And I just lived in this constant state of going with the flow. Actually, at one point, I had just become so masculine. That's why I needed to swing my pendulum. But at one point, I was so uncomfortable with this new feminine frequency that I had a one-on-one session with a therapist. And I said, hey, like, I'm just floating through life. And she's like, yeah, that's the fucking point. You're on sabbatical. You're supposed to be doing this. Anyway, now that I'm out of sabbatical, I've noticed that a lot of people are unconsciously taking sabbaticals without actually taking sabbaticals. So what I mean by that is that it's this texture of, I'm just going with the flow and living in divine timing. All of that is running their lives. So they have all of these big desires, but they're not taking any aligned action towards them. They're just mentally masturbating on the idea. They're journaling about it. Maybe they've even created a whole ass Pinterest board. But in this 3D reality of humanity on Earth, nothing has actually happened. So from a nervous system perspective, this person is probably in a state of fawn or freeze. This is where a person is in a state of constantly dreaming because it feels safe, because expansion feels unsafe. So they freeze. Usually because it's scary. Usually because there's a cost involved. And that cost might be they need to invest in themselves, they have to hire support, they have to step into the unknown. Everything has a cost. Let's talk about the word cost and how it's impacting your life. Right now, you've chosen to listen to this episode. That means that you decided that the cost of not doing something else was worth it. Another example, if you're into designer brands and you buy yourself a new Gucci bag, the fat price ticket on a Gucci bag is worth the fact that you feel luxury in it. You feel high end, you feel like that bitch. With the Gucci bag, it's worth it because you've rationalized that the cost is worth it for you, if that's in alignment with your values. So when you sit on your ass and don't execute your dreams, that also has a cost. And the cost might be 5 more years of mental gymnastics and looping in the same place. And we can go even deeper and say that the cost is hundreds of people don't get to witness you in your full magic and your full truth because you've chosen to play small. So you're robbing people of the opportunity to celebrate you, to invest in you, to invest in your services. So let me ask you, what is the current cost of your reality? And is that price a cost that you're willing to keep paying? For example, at the time of this recording, I'm in the process of buying my first home. Woo-woo! And yes, that comes with a huge fucking financial cost. But the gift that I'm receiving, security, roots, grounding, that's priceless to me right now. Whereas a year ago, I didn't value that. I valued freedom, so I traveled throughout the world. And that's the point. What you value dictates the cost you're willing to pay. So embodying way too much feminine energy and negating your masculine might actually make you pay a price that doesn't serve your truest desire. So if you're feeling stagnant right now, like there's more life to be lived, whether that means having a better sex life with your partner, whether that means having a bigger business that's more abundant, ask yourself, what's the cost of staying here and not going after those things? What's the cost of remaining in the status quo and not taking the leap? Now listen, I think it's obvious that I love feminine embodiment work. I literally fucking teach this. My sabbatical taught me how to soften, how to find ease in my body, in my feminine. But if we stay there forever without building the inner masculine, all of that ease actually turns into stagnation. And then the common theme that I hear women saying is that, oh, I'm hyper masculine. But what if it's that you're hyper feminine and actually all the way to the spectrum of being passive and not knowing what is aligned action? So you're so busy doing all this other shit and calling it masculinity, but babe, you're actually in a fawn response, going through the motions, but not actually taking aligned action with what you actually want. So here's a simple tool. I want you to ask yourself, what is my truest desire? What do I want to create? Let your feminine voice speak it. And then ask, what is one small action I can take towards that desire today? And then let your masculine come online. That's it. Feminine to masculine, desire to action. This is an obviously oversimplified version of it for the sake of fitting it into a podcast episode. I go way deeper with my clients. I go way deeper in my group programs, but that's the format. Talking to the feminine and then implementing with the masculine. It's almost as if the feminine informs the masculine, because if the feminine isn't online and alive, the masculine doesn't know what to do. The masculine needs the GPS coordinates. AKA it needs the desire from the feminine to know what to do. I had a former client from like years ago come like find my work again, and she said, Karina, everything that you do seems so seamless. Like the way that you can just pivot, the way that you create all this content online, like I just don't have that skill. And I told her the truth. I pay for support. Everything you see online is because I've invested thousands of dollars in myself and in my business. I do not simply sit in my feminine and pleasure ritual my way to success. I put my masculine pants on too, and I love it. I love action. I love investing. I love strategy. I love taking, and honestly, it's not just action, it is aligned action. I've embodied this work so much that I know what an aligned action is. And I know what it's like to take unaligned actions and simply play mental gymnastics and convince myself that I'm getting the ball rolling, but I'm actually just in a fawn response. If you know, you know. I think collectively on Earth, a lot of people are learning what it looks like to be in both the feminine and the masculine. And I'm gonna say that 90% of women are coming into my world to work with me because of this specifically. Like they're wanting to learn how to find their own internal balance. Because when your feminine and your masculine are integrated, you become unstoppable. You magnetize and execute. You're radiant and grounded. You're the muse and the architect. I have another episode that talks about the muse and the artist in relationships. I highly recommend checking that out. So when we really build this internal masculine, basically what's happening is that we're no longer outsourcing. We all know that one person that's super needy and doesn't know how to sit with themselves. This is someone that's likely outsourcing their inner masculine containment. So they're seeking for someone else to give them security, give them direction. If you've made it to the end of this episode, something tells me that this is just the beginning for you. If this is speaking to you and you're like, damn, I'm ready to go all in, join my paid membership, The Embodied Woman. I hop on live, I do live coaching, I have somatic practices inside of there. It's literally only $88 a month at the time of this recording, which is unreal, given the fact that my private coaching is a 4-figure minimum. So if you're like, all right, fuck yeah, I need to go deeper into this, head into the show notes.